Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sewing Guru, and for this particular video I'm going to show you the second technique of how to create and attach the waistband onto the top of a pair of trousers. So what I'm going to do is go over the parts that you would need for the waistband, and then afterwards I'm going to show you how I got them. So the first part is the actual main body of the waistband itself, and we've got two strips of those. We've got the waistband facings. Okay, now this is specially created waistband facing with rubber parts on one side as a kind of a gripper, but if you don't have this, you can actually create this from the same fabric as your trousers, and all you need to do is just do the length of the waistband and then double it. So it's going to be double the width, so that you've got a double width where it can be folded over, so you can get it similar to how I've got it here. Okay. Now I've also cut out two parts of interfacing which would match these strips of waistbanding exactly in length. I've also got a strip of fabric here which I've created for the belt loops, and this strip of fabric is 2.5 centimeters in width, and I've got it long enough for the amount of belt loops which I'm going to create. Now I'm going to be creating 6 belt loops which are going to end up like this. So I'm going to need enough length here in this strip to be able to get 6 belt loops out of it. Okay, and simply I've just overlocked the edges on both sides for the belt loopings. And finally we've got 2 pieces of facing where the buttons and the hooks and bars would be attached to. You need 2 facings like this. And also those 2 facings are going to need to be fused. So I've cut out 2 pieces of fusing exactly the same size. So I'm going to now show you how I got these pieces. So first of all, what you need to do is get your trousers. Okay, so this is the top of the trousers, and we've got the front zip here. What you need to do is close the zip, and you need to make sure that this is completely aligned. Okay, so just going to move the underneath out of the way. I mean, what you can do is you can get your sleeve board and slide this over the top of the sleeve board, so it's going to be more accurate and you don't cut anything else off that you don't need to cut. So you just need to make sure that everything's flat. Okay, I mean, you can give this a bit of a press. Make sure that everything's flat and just close the zip. Okay, and it's very important that this is all completely aligned at the top. Now with mine, I've just got still a bit of fabric sticking out of the top. So what we're going to do is just trim this like that, so that it's all exactly in alignment here. Okay, and we know that the waistband is going to sit exactly the same on the top as it will on the under part here. Okay, so when you've done that and that's aligned, you can now measure and create the waistband parts. So I have here the top of the trousers, okay, to right the way to the centre back. Okay, so we've got the 2 darts here, we've got the pocket, and we've got the 2 pleat parts as well. Now how I got the first part of the waistband was, of course, it needs to be exactly the same in length from the centre back here right along to the front of the trousers as well. And we also need an overlapping part, because the trousers when the zip is closed, yeah, you've got this overlapping part where the buttons and buttonholes attach onto each other. Okay, so what you need to do is measure from the centre back right along, all the way along the top, and also make sure that you've got a bit extra here. Alright, so that is how I got my front part. Now the extra amount that I've got is 8 centimetres. Okay, so basically the top, you need the waistband length, the top of the trousers, plus the 8 centimetres on this side. Okay, now the other part of waistband is the underside, and again it needs to be the same length. So starting from the centre back, measuring right along the top of the trousers itself, and then of course here you're going to be needing a bit of seam allowance, so I would add on 1 centimetre or 2 centimetres if you like. So I'm just going to measure mine. So as you can see, from the centre back right along the top, all the way along, over the pleats, the pockets, and also where the zip is and the facing part. And as you can see, we have here a slight overlap, and of course that's going to be our seam allowance, and I've got it at 1.5 centimetres. Okay, so that is basically the front parts of the fusing of the waistbandings. So there's 2 of those, and then you need to cut out the 2 pieces of fusings exactly the same as those. Okay, now the facings, of course, we're going to need a bit more bulk where the button and buttonholes are going to be, and the hooks and bars. So you need to know, for instance, on the front of the trousers, it's going to have to cover this zip part here. So I've cut mine, let's just have a look here, make sure that it's this way. Oh yes, it's this way on. So of course it's going to be overlapping, yeah, and you need to make sure that you've got your overlap here and enough to be set back behind the zip here. Okay, so that's the length you need it. Alright, and of course it needs to be doubled over. Okay, now when I construct this waistband onto here, you'll see what I'm talking about with this part, okay, if it's a little bit confusing now. And of course the other side needs to be the same size, okay, because you've got this part here with the zip, and of course you do need a little bit of bulk which is acting as the facing on the waistband. So that's why I've got 2 of these, and I've cut out 2 pieces of fusing exactly the same in size. Okay, now the waistband facing, to start with, I've cut those exactly the same in length as the actual waistband itself. Okay, now when we attach the facing parts onto here, of course these parts will be reduced in size. Okay, so the first thing what I'm going to do is we're just going to fuse our waistband parts. So I'm just going to grab the main waistband. Let's take this out of the way. So I've got the 2 waistband parts, and we're just going to fuse these parts here. So we stick the fusing onto the waistband like so. Like so. Just do it gently first of all, so it's all flat and neat, and then we can properly press it later on. like so. And then we're just going to cut the excess off here. And we've got excess fusing over here as well. And a little bit here, just trimming, you know, just trimming the edges, making it look all neat. There we go. And we're just going to now fuse the other piece. Making sure, of course, the glue side is facing onto the wrong side of the waistbanding. So just do a slight bit of pressing first of all, and again we're just going to trim this down. Trimming off the excess fusing on both sides, obviously, just making it look neater. There we go, and here as well. Right, that was a bit stuck here as well. Okay, now we can press this properly and really make sure that our fusing is on here securely. Now, depending on the type of fusing that you've got, some might take a little bit longer to bond than others. This generally bonds quite quickly, actually, this particular fusing, so it's good news there. And you're going to need the fusing, of course, the correct thickness for the trousers that you're going to be making, of course, as well. Okay, so just fuse this. Keep your fusing right along. Okay, that should be pretty much bonded quite nicely. And of course, as it cools, it bonds even more. Okay, so we're just going to now fuse these parts as well. Just put fusing on here and here. And again, we're just going to trim off the excess parts of fusing that's hanging over the edge of our main waistband facings here. So just trim that. Just keep trimming all of these parts. I mean, really, the preparation for before you actually sew everything is actually fairly time consuming, to be honest with you, rather than the actual sewing of the garment itself. I've always found that it practically takes just as long, if not longer, to just get everything ready. So that's that, and again, just press this even more to really bond this fusing on. Like so, and here. Okay, so that's our main waistband parts fused. Okay, so we can discard these for now, because the first thing what we're going to do is we are going to create our belt loops. So you just need to turn over a small part of one side. I would say practically the width of the overlocking. You need to turn over, yeah, and you just need to press that down. Just the width of the overlocking. Like so. I mean, what you can do is you can actually put it on a sleeve board, if you think it's easier that way. So just press just the overlocking part down. Just press it down like so. Now, belt loops don't have a rule of width at all, okay? It's completely up to you. But of course, if you make them very wide, unless of course it's a style feature, it is going to look a little odd. So make sure that you do get your belt loops roughly a centimetre in width. Okay, so we're just going to now press the other side over as well. Like so, and do that right along. Right along. Until you've basically pressed the whole lot. Okay, and what you're going to do is we're going to be stitching a row of stitching from one end right along on the edge. So of course it keeps this part that you've just pressed, keeping it down right along, and then coming back up the other edge as well. Okay, so you just need to just stitch it on the edge to give this decorative stitching. Now if you're not too sure what that is, you can go and have a look at some belt loops yourself, but on here we've got the stitching which is just in off the edge on both sides, and of course what it's doing is it's just holding this overlocking down and it's keeping it flat. So we're going to do that right now, stitching right along from one end to the other. Okay, so I've stitched right along, so of course it's holding now this pressed part that you did before, it's holding that down. Just give it a press. Right along. Like so. And now I'm going to be cutting these into the belt loop lengths that we need. Okay, now my belt loops are going to be 9 centimeters in length. So basically what you need to do is just cut the belt loop, in my case 9 centimeters. You need to basically measure the length of your belt loop before you cut it, okay? But just cut the belt loop to the length that you need. So there's our first one, and we're just going to keep on cutting these belt loops until we've got the amount that we need. So in my case I need 6, so we're just going to cut 6 out. So there's 2. Really easy, this is the easiest way to do it in one piece. 3, cut another 1. 4, 5, and 1 more, and we're going to have a little bit left over, so that's ideal. There we go, there's our 6, and we've got a bit left over here just in case we make a mistake, so that's ideal. So we've now got our 6 belt loops ready. So the next part now is we're going to be aligning our belt loops onto the trousers. Okay, so the first part, or the first belt loop, which I like to put, is in the position of where the pleat starts. So my first pleat is here. So we're going to be positioning our first belt loop just on the top of the pleat, like so. So we're just going to put a pin there to secure that in. Put a pin here, just on the top of the first pleat, and of course we're going to duplicate that on the other side as well. So make sure, now if you notice, I've got mine just on the inside of the pleat here, so we have to make sure it's exactly the same on the other side as well. Okay, and put a pin in there just to secure that down, like so. And then of course we need to have one which is, I would say, on the side of the trousers. So we've got here the side seam, so just put a belt loop on the side seam there. So I'm just going to attach mine just beyond the seam, like so. Or you can put it on top of the seam, it's up to you. In fact, what we're going to do is just put it on top of the seam, like so, and attach that on, and do the same on the other side. Attach it right on top of the side seam. Again, attach that in, like so. And finally, we're going to be putting our final belt loop on. So what I do is I measure the distance between these two belt loops. Okay, so right in the distance, so we've got here, mine measures 12.5 centimeters from here to here where the belt loops are attached. So what we're going to do is we're going to be measuring again 12.5 centimeters and attaching our final belt loop 12.5 centimeters in, so they are all completely in alignment. And again, do that on the other side as well. Make sure that these are measured 12.5 exactly. Yeah, so that's 12.5 there, and we're going to be measuring this 12.5. So again, placing our belt loop at 12.5 there, and just attaching that on. Okay, so now that we've attached our belt loops and they're all in alignment, what I like to do now is just put a row of stitching just quickly across the top of the trousers, securing all of these belt loops in on both sides.